My name is Carol Anderson. I'm a PR consultant. I've been doing it for a very long time. The business was founded in 1989, and our range of services are very broad, but mainly my focus is to drive up business for my clients. Tip number 1, you can't sell if you don't tell. And I meet lots of businesses who've got fantastic products that they've developed, but they haven't thought through how they're going to present those to the public and to the audience that they want to sell their services or their products to. So you have to really think hard about how you're going to sell and make the message to tell what it is you're going to sell. Tip number 2, focus and target. And what I mean by that is if you were going to put out a press story to the press, you need to think very carefully about your audience and who exactly it is that you want to tell that message to, not to everybody. In most cases, what you're selling, whether it's a service or a product, it will have a specific market of people that you want to sell to, and you need to think about your story being focused on that market. So for example, if you've got a thriller of a book to sell, as somebody did earlier this week that I was speaking to, and I asked him what his target market was, he said most thrillers are read by women over 65. So you have to think, well, what does a woman over 65 read, watch, listen to, and be very focused in where you put your message so that it links back to that target audience. Tip number 3, clear messages. So it's easy to pack your press information with everything, but be very, very clear and very specific. Sometimes when I'm doing training of clients in how to do presentations, and we're talking about the old PowerPoint presentation, I think in the old days when you had slides and not digital, if you just have one slide you could take with you and only one, what would be the one you wouldn't leave behind? So focus your message right down to a very, very clear message. So coming back to the thriller, it might be something to do with the content of it, what might attract people to read it. But don't make your message complicated. Tip number 4, up front. Have all your information at the front of everything you say. You've got an editor's interest for perhaps 3 seconds when you send him an email with your press story in it. So that whole message has to be right at the top. A lot of press releases I read that other people have written, they're full of information and you get to the last paragraph and that's the most interesting one. And it's why was that not up at the top? So in your headline and in your first paragraph, you have to grab that whole story and make it clear and focused. Tip number 5, human interest. People like to read about people, and it's really important that you put the human interest factor into whatever message you're putting out. So if you're starting your own business and you're looking to grow it, you need to talk about you, and you might be very uncomfortable doing that, but that's what people like to read about. So talk about why you came up with the idea for your business, what it is that motivated you to start your business, what the product's all about. And I'm sure with lots of businesses I've read about, particularly early start ones, there is a real human interest angle on how they began. From Oxfam, who I worked for years ago, was set up by a group of women in Oxford to help take food and supplies across through Greece during the war. And it was the Oxford Famine Relief Group, I think they were called, shortened to Oxfam. But their motivation was to help, and it was a group of people, and it was all about the people. So whether it's The Apprentice with Alan Sugar, who you'd focus on, or the thriller, you'd focus on the author and what he was all about. And you talk about how old you are, where you're from, and exactly what motivated you to get into business. And that's what the press will be interested in.